Welcome back to another episode of Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. I am, of course, your host with the most feel better. And today we have a returning guest. We're doing a part two with this guest because I was just blown away by the knowledge and story that my current guest brought. So I wanted to bring him back on. We're going to be talking more about health, how we can become better versions of ourselves, which is the most important thing in life. So please welcome back, Coach Georges. Georges, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for this episode two. I'm honored to share, and as you sent me an email yesterday, things happen for a reason. We have to share this with your audience, but we didn't know, but we double booked. So Phil sent me an email and said, "Well, should we cancel? We already did the episode," and I just said, "Why don't we?" If you have the time, I would like to share a very important um, topic that if you put it into action somewhat, um, I'll give you this bold statement that it would be very tough for you to get a chronic disease, for you to get sick. Yeah, you may have a cold. I think I'm fighting one now with the changes of weather. We went from 80 degrees to 49, so it's
That'll do it.
but uh, but I'm talking chronic diseases and taking care of ourselves. I was writing something for my, well, this will be my second book. I'm working on two books at the same time. You might think I'm crazy, but you know, our time, our time is the most precious gift we have, and is a non-renewable resource. So, and many people just flow through life and not thinking about this. So we might as well have a very good, healthy life in our path. We are all going to go. So I like to um, share with you the human cycle. Okay, and this is how it goes. The sun, it has a cycle of 365, or depending on the year, 366 days. The moon is 28 days, and us humans, our cycle is 24 hours. In those 24 hours, we're designed to do certain things in order to stay healthy. And I'm going to start with sleeping. And if I asked, when I asked, in whether it's five people or 500 in a talk, and who has a problem sleeping, and pretty much almost everyone raises their hand, because in one or another, we don't sleep well. And there are many reasons for that. So obviously, we may get back from work or whatever we were doing during the day. We get back home stressed out, and instead of relaxing, we just know that we have to have dinner, and then there's TV time, whatever it is. But that's one thing. We just, all of a sudden, we force ourselves to go to bed, and many people just take a while to go to bed. So, and it is important. Out of those 24 hours a day, we supposed to sleep between 6 good hours, 6 to 8 hours. In my case, I sleep 6 good hours, because I wake up, I go to bed at 10 at night, but I wake up at 5. So I spend about 2.5 hours doing stuff for me, nourishing myself, journaling, meditating, praying, and then I go to the gym or I go for a run. It's just really time for me, time to keep myself, as we all know, we are designed to movement, not to be sitting all day. That's why we have muscles and bones, is to move. So sleeping is, it's a key component, because while we sleep, our those hours are just for, really, for detoxing and restoring our bodies. Our subconscious minds, one of the main tasks that it has, which, by the way, you and I are talking now, and the audience, we're breathing, and we don't realize it. But this wisdom that is inside of us, that makes everything turned on, the subconscious mind needs time for certain things, and for us, as we sleep, we are detoxing the liver, and in conjunction to everything else in there. It's basically detoxing our bodies, and also we restoring every here and there. Maybe we had some sort of a sore because we twisted our ankle or anything like that. But what happens though is that most people, and it doesn't matter the culture, most people go home in the evening, and they had not maybe eaten enough during the day, and they had the biggest meal in the evening. Not only do they have their biggest meal in the evening, but they have it maybe an hour before they go to bed. So what ends up happening is that we go to bed, and instead of detoxing and restoring, we go to bed wasting energy digesting. So maybe by 3 in the morning is when the body starts really detoxing and restoring, because the energy in the beginning of your sleeping time was to digest. So here's the tip that and I do this when I go to dinner, or I go out, which is obviously something that we all have to do, but we try to go and have dinner early as well, like a 7, 9 o'clock max. And if that happens, it's a Friday, we make sure we go to bed 2 hours or 2.5 hours after dinner. So when we go to bed, yeah, our digestion is done, and we give our subconscious mind and our natural flow to work right. But if you had very little breakfast, and I know this, especially in the United States, but I guess this is everywhere. When we want in this noisy culture, when you're in a hurry, you have to go to work, you have to do errands, and I see many people having a coffee, or worse, a soda, and that's it. And then they go and they have something to munch in the mid morning. Then they eat whatever they can have at lunch. But when they go home, in the evening, they say, "Well, now I'm going to have my meal," and that is really a mistake. Unless you make sure that you have your meal, uh, at least give it time before you go to bed that you can actually digest. Okay, and so that's an amazing tip. Another thing that I learned when I was studying nutrition, there's a guy, Jack LaLanne. I mean, from very famous in the past, but he did say something that really it made sense, and I think it comes from uh, from the Greek uh, philosopher that was into medicine, uh, Socrates, and he said breakfast is king. That should be your biggest meal, and you have the nutrients and energy for the day. Lunch is queen, and dinner is poor man's dinner, poor man's plate. Maybe a salad, maybe a yogurt, something really light. And again, if you can, an hour or two, if it's light, in an hour and a half, you already did your digestion. But it's very important to allow yourself to have digestion before you go to sleep. That's one thing. The other thing that is a and basically, I don't recommend this. Many people have a TV in the room, and that really it goes against, especially if you listen to the news and things like that. You're really feeding yourself some really bad stuff, negative stuff on what some people say. He's Canadian, this guy, Romy Sharma. I don't know. He's one of my mentors. He's a writer, an amazing writer. And I follow him since I was like 25. He's a little younger than me, but this guy is really good. And he says that um, it is it is it is key to to understand that we need to um, um, kind of like have the best calm situations before we go to bed. So here are some tips. Try not to watch TV in your room. If you're gonna watch the news, which I don't recommend, especially minutes or hours, an hour before you go to bed, and all you hear is negative news, because people got into this trend, and everybody. I mean, if you see the polls and at the time, the ratings, everybody watches the news, and the last 5 minutes is the only positive thing, if any. Everything else, all you're hearing is division, this and crime, and everything is negative. It's almost like we have this. We are hypnotized with the negative, and the mind absorbs all that. So you go to bed and with all this negative energy in you, and that doesn't serve you well, as a holistic being. I'm not talking now on digestion, but it creates a little bit of anxiety that you don't even realize. That's another thing. If uh, if you're gonna take, there's some people that say, "Man, I cannot go to sleep," so they go and they go to the doctor and they get sleeping pills, they get a recipe and do that. That really, you may go to sleep, but again, if you ate a lot before you went to sleep, whatever, once you're asleep, whether it's chemically or not, you're not serving your body well. So if you want to take something before you go to sleep, you could take melatonin. It's it's just a little bit. We produce melatonin, but if we're stressed out, and I mean, we have a very wise system in us. I mean, God made us perfect in that sense. I mean, we're an amazing machine. We need to understand it. So when we do this, all of a sudden, you're thinking, people say, "Well, what's going on with Phil? Look at him, man. His energy, whatever." All we gotta do is tweak these things a little bit. And so that's one that I take every night. Uh, Sometimes I forget, but most of the time, I'll take a capsule of magnesium. Magnesium also is good for your bones. Some people get cramps when they're sleeping, and but it also slows you down. That's another thing that if you're gonna do a supplement, I would take those two. I take a little bit of a very small pill of melatonin, and then I have my capsule of magnesium. The three types of magnesium combined, um, and so that's another thing. And then one that is really important, if you want to, and it's a relaxer, take a warm shower. You take a warm shower before you go to bed, and if possible, there are these things that have they're like socks, or like this little, I would call it's cloth that has like rice or stones inside, little stones, and you can warm it up in your
Microwave or oven.
microwave and stuff. Warm it up a little bit, or take a bottle of water and warm it up. I mean, plastic, and put it on your tummy and just stay a few minutes when you go to bed on your back, with a little warmth in your stomach right after your shower. If you're having an extreme problem, having a hard time going to sleep, but sleeping in this 24 hour human cycle, it is key for our health. When we restore and we regenerate, we start a new day with a lot of energy. It's just we're designed that way, but we're the ones that just disrupt the process, and that is one of the situations. The other part of this, the hours that we have awakened, um, most of the time, and many people get caught into this routine. You wake up and you're already thinking about what you're gonna do. Oh, you haven't finished this last night, and you are like in reaction mode because you woke up, you got dressed, you get your coffee, maybe eat in a hurry, which is not good. We talked about it in the previous episode. And so from the night before to the next 24 hours, all we're doing is disrupting the cycle. We're supposed to have a good breakfast and not in a hurry. So if you find yourself that you are always stressing out to get out of the door, wake up ten minutes before you usually wake up. Do some things that you can actually start managing this cycle. And again, you have a good breakfast, maybe a nice and healthy snack mid morning. Then you have lunch, not as big, or maybe it's big as breakfast, but that's it. And then you have maybe a smoothie or something, in the mid afternoon, and then have a light dinner. The lighter the dinner, the better, and do it so you know that when you're going to go to sleep, you already digested that dinner. And just by doing that, um, you're really honoring the human cycle. Now, here's another one that it's really important to know that also gets us sick if we don't honor this. And this is the amount of water you drink on a daily basis. Okay. And I do have some stuff that I shared in your previous episode, that the previous episode in our interview, and I think I gave it to you, but I'm going to send you. What I did is I put together a link that has all this stuff. It has the rules of the mind, which is really, really a key thing to do and understand and maybe put to practice a little bit. How to water, tips, um, how to sleep tips, a little bit of what, so it has a little more of what we just discussed today. And he has something that is also, it helped me heal from my disease, and that's really forgiveness, the part of the emotional part of my holistic self. So I do have there a recording for it's a forgiveness meditation. One is for men, one is for women. I have them both in there, and then obviously the balanced pH that we talked the other day about this. And so in this cycle, in this awaken hours, we have to make sure that we nourish ourselves the right time, the right way. If anything, when I do my when I have my clients, one of the things that we work first is the physical leg. Then we work on the emotional, then the mental, and then the spiritual. But within the physical leg, we and mental, or really spiritual, I encourage folks and I teach them to start to learn how to meditate, to relax, have some time in the morning for them. Once you get that, if you pass a 21 straight day, let's say, mark, you start making, it's becoming a habit. And once that is a habit, the days that you don't do it for whatever reason, it happens to all of us, you don't it's not the same type of day, because you started really honoring yourself, being thankful that you open your eyes. And then you could just even journal if you want, but write stuff that is, it's almost like a prayer, whatever comes to mind, or being thankful for your kids, for your wife, for your work. I mean, do not take things for granted, and understanding too that um, our time is a non-renewable resource. Time keeps running, and so we should really have the mindset to say, man, we have to be good stewards of our time. It's going. It is like a cassette, the old fashioned cassettes that are running, you know, and there's no stop. He runs, and you youngsters, it's not so bad. But when if I remember that at the end of the tape, usually it seems to go faster, to the end. And so yeah, and so I wanted to share some of these tips because it's very important to know. I mean, some people say, "Well, the human cycle, yeah, it's 24 hours," and things. There are some things that are designed to happen, and if we don't know, um, boy, we actually starting to create situations and environments that get us sick. In the U.S., I did the numbers in Canada as well, but in the U.S., nearly I told you almost 50% of the nation has one or two chronic diseases, and it's poor sleeping, poor dieting, a lot of stress, people living with emotional clutter from the past, and so all the stuff, you combine that, and the body gives up. Our holistic self gives up and says, look, you know here you go, here's the body or the yourself. It brings you a medical bill. Look, you have to go to the doctor. But here's one thing that is very important to know. If you understand that you're the reason you got sick, is your fault, guess what? You also have the power to heal
Hmm.
from that if you make the right changes. You don't have to give that power to anyone else. And that you can bring support, somebody that has been there, somebody that can keep you accountable, whatever, coach, anything. But the whole thing is that, in my case, for example, and it took a couple of years, when I realized, man, this was my fault. Look at me before. I mean, and I thought I was, striving, just going to be a CTO, this and that, and taking the kids to a camping, doing it everything, and then all of a sudden, boom! That's not what life is all about, Georges. You gotta slow down. You gotta really, and so whatever the reason was, and then, these diseases are not hereditary, by the way. So what is hereditary is the lifestyle in that culture or in that family. So if it's a family that drinks a lot, or, let's say in party a lot, and they go to bed at 2 in the morning and wake up at 10 in the morning, that's another thing. There are some times of the day, I don't know if you've noticed it, but if I oversleep, which is really as bad as not sleeping enough. That's something also for us to understand. If we already restored, go ahead. You had a question.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on the oversleeping because that's something I find interesting because a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm going to sleep longer to catch up on sleep," but you're coming here to say that if you oversleep, it's actually more detrimental to someone's health.
Yeah, it's the reason for that is there is a cycle. This cycle, the moment that you have had a chance to detox and restore, I mean, your subconscious man, your internal being, you're ready to wake up, and it takes about 7 hours. But so let's say somebody works until 2 in the morning. The idea there is, well, try to sleep during the days. That's another thing that you just reminded me. But that person needs to have at least 6 hours of good sleep. But by hour five, it's already daytime. So for them, that the next few hours of sleeping, of those 7 or 8 hours, there's already light, and that's something that we'll talk about it now. The darker your room is when you go to sleep, the better. Some people leave the TV on, and you're getting all this radiation. On top of that, your subconscious mind knows that there's no darkness for you to digest, sleep good. But there are people that say, and I was one of them, Oh, when I just gonna sleep 10 hours because last night I sleep only 5. And it doesn't work that way. Oversleeping, what it does is that you already finish, and now when you're supposed to be moving, you're disrupting the awaken time. The only thing that can change is when people work overnight. They have the overnight shifts, and when you talk to them, one of my sons did that for about 8 months, and he decided to stop that. He was a youngster. He didn't finish college yet, or but he said, and he quote, he said that it's just, I'm like a zombie during the day, even though I sleep until 4. And so, because we're not designed for that, we're designed to sleep in the dark, just like the animal kingdom, and so, and then there's another thing. So another tip that you brought up is to try to sleep with as much darkness as you can. That really helps your melatonin to naturally produce and being produced in your body. So yeah, and then obviously, and this is good. When I was sick, they told me if you have the time, it is good to have like a 10-15 minute nap after lunch or something. If you have that, and that if you can do that, that is good. Now, I fail to do that sometimes because I have many things to do. So my wife reminds me, "Why don't you take a nap? Take a break?" And I take a nap. So what happens to me in that one, in that nap, I have to put something on the alarm so I can wake up in 15, max 20 minutes. If I sleep more than that, I'm like I
I
wake up.
can't sleep at the night either.
Yeah.
It ruins my sleep night if I take more than like I can do up to 30 minutes, but if it's like a late nap, like at around 4 o'clock, I'm screwed.
Oh,
My night is screwed. I have to do it
yeah,
around like 1 o'clock is probably the
max.
latest.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So here you have it. It really is being aware of this, let's say, rules of our cycle. And if we honor that, if we manage to eat the most calories at breakfast and a good amount of calories at lunch, maybe have a couple good snacks. It could be peanuts, or it could be fruit or a juice, or nothing with too much sugar. And same in the afternoon if you can. If you don't, the idea is not to get home with with a lot of hunger, because a lot of people eat a whole cow at night and then they expect to sleep good.
Yeah.
That's not good. So if anyone in the audience is in that particular mode, try to reverse it. And again, it's not like right away. It takes a few weeks, but you have to constantly be consistent in those 21 days, saying, "Okay, I'm gonna wake up earlier so I can have a rest and digest lunch, breakfast." Because that's what happens a lot. People are, even in the movies they show us. I mean, it's almost like it's part of the cycle. No, take your time, have a good breakfast, and then have a good lunch, not as big as a breakfast, and then a very light dinner. And
I
obviously, drink water during the day. The,
Yeah,
the
water is since our last talk, I've been trying my best to limit the amount of sugary drinks I've taken.
Oh yes,
I already was doing that beforehand, but when you gave me that, it takes like 32, I think you said 32.
32 glasses to alkaline your body. Yes.
Yeah, I was like, okay, we're gonna drop down everything down. I already cut out alcohol out of my diet since 2020. Occasionally have that for
Yeah, of course.
celebratory. You can't. Moderation is the key important bit
Exactly.
here. I'm curious to know your take on fasting, because there's intermittent fasting that has come up. It was coming up during COVID, which a lot of new things were coming through. I would like to know, as a holistic health coach, as someone who's gone through nutrition training and that, what is your view on the intermittent fasting? I don't want to say craze because I don't think it's a craze, and I don't think it's a fad. I think it's something that's I personally
Yeah.
do enjoy because I do feel that I was able to lose over 100 pounds doing the fasting.
Wow.
But yeah, I was 300 pounds before.
Wow. Congrats.
Uh,
Yeah.
Thank you very much. 2020 was a very good year for me to lose weight. Since I didn't need it to leave the house, I could, fast easier. I would like to know what's your take coming from the holistic point of view
Yeah.
of
Wow.
fasting.
That's an excellent question. First of all, in that human cycle, what happens in those 8 hours or 7 or 6, especially if you didn't have a big dinner, is that's what's happening. That's what we call it break fast in the morning. We're fasting naturally if we allow our bodies to do that because we have enough time to do it. Now, fasting, and everybody maybe has different ideas. Fasting is wonderful. Fasting is the avatar, Jesus himself. Fasting is not only great for giving your body a break, but it's also a spiritual situation. The moment that you are having a little bit of hunger, it's a new habit. All of a sudden, you're gonna do it, and you struggle the first few days because you even get headaches and stuff. What happens with fasting is that you are taking those 6 to 8 hours that you're supposed to be fasting naturally, and you prolong it. Okay. What we do, my wife and I, is every 3 months we go for a whole month doing intermediate fasting. We stop eating at 8, whatever we eat from 12 to 8, and then we don't have but water until 12 the next day. Intermittent fasting. And then what I teach my clients, and we do this at least twice. We go on the second month. I don't want to throw that right away because they have to do many other things. But on the second month, we do a 10-day, what we call reset, a 10-day reset. And it is really interesting to see them that struggling because they don't buy those things, that it income that, it's with juicing and stuff. It's not complete fasting, but it's no coffee, no sugar, stuff like that. 10 days, and then the last month, because my protocol is 3 months, we do it again. And guess what? Sometimes they call me. Let's say we finish. Some people finish at 3 months. Some people they want to continue, and we continue. But they call me and they say, "Look, what is it that? Are you going to continue to do it?" I say, "Great. You do 10 days a month of resetting. It's not really just fasting. It's just cleansing, but it's with a it's almost like juicing all the time, and but it's really good. It really, what happens with fasting as well, if you do like the whole 24 hours, if you could do it on a weekend. I have tried that before, especially when I was in competition. And the amount of energy that you get, and you get a little bit sick in a way the first 24, 36 hours, or 30 hours, because the body is almost like, until you get used to it. But the first time is a shock. What's going on here? And but at the end of the day, it is good. It is healthy. I would suggest you keep doing that periodically. You don't have to go all time. I do have a few buddies from my tennis world that with their wives, not with the kids, but the kids are gone. They do it. Interfasting. They've been doing it for intermittent fast. They just eat at night, and not even at lunch. And what they eat at night is, except weekends, they might go out or they might have people to dinner at home. But during the week, they just they go almost 24 hours, and then they have a light dinner, and then they go to sleep. In the morning, they drink coffee, water, but it's a lifestyle. You look at them and you say, well, they're healthy. They eat whatever they want to eat, but they know that it's not the best idea, and they know naturally that if they eat too late, then they don't sleep well. So you have to still manage the sleeping. But it's very good. Great question. It's really, and if you have chronic disease and you want to really shock your body, I mean, one way to alkaline your body is fasting and you drinking water. Water is the most alkaline substance, and we are 70% water, inside. So, yeah, it's good. Great question. Great
Excellent.
question.
I'm glad that I knew the fasting was at least good for weight loss. I'm glad to hear that it was great for,
Oh,
resetting the whole body. And
resetting the body, resetting your mind.
yeah,
And there is a way too that if, depending on your intention, for us Catholic Christians, we do Lent right before the Holy Week, and so people start, they go, oh well, I'm gonna stop drinking coffee, I'm gonna do this, and I say, sometimes I say, look, there's other ways, just go ahead and do a day, 3 days of fasting during the week, or do it just on Fridays. And but there's other ways to do fasting. Fast, not criticizing anybody or not
Mhm.
judging anybody. When you find yourself judging somebody, hey, when you judge somebody, you may be missing the good that lies behind that judgment. And so at the end of the day, it's a spiritual thing, and whatever reason we're trying to do it, it connects to that. Next time you do fasting, you can maybe even offer it for, let's say, your family, somebody in the family that is struggling. It's just a powerful prayer to do that. You are going through, in a way, a sacrifice. That now it's not about your weight. I'm going to do this. Obviously, it's going to happen automatically, but it's more like every time you feel hungry, every time you have like a little struggle, man, I wish I could have it. Then you think, man, I'm doing this as the energy that I'm sending Joe, and it is really cool, man. It's just good. We have so much power in ourselves, inside ourselves, and if we take the time, which nobody has time, and that's the first thing I hear. Yes, you have time. You can be a good steward of your own time, which is it's going away. One day it's going to be your time to go, and then you're going to look back and say, man, how much time did I waste?
Mm.
you know um, this guy, Oscar Wilde, he has an interesting. I have it in my book. An interesting quote. It says, "Humans are the strangest thing in the world. All they do is exist." That's whew, and that's right. When you think about it, many people with a purpose, whatever, they're just existing. They just, oh my God, thank God it's Friday. Next week, the same thing. And this guy from Canada, Robin Sharma, look it up, look him up. You're gonna really like this guy. He has a quote that it's really powerful. It's, most people live the same life 85 times, 85 years, the same life, no change, and that we're not designed for that either. But living the same life is the same thing as saying we're just existing, you know, and we're distracted doing stuff. My wife tells me sometimes, "Well, yeah, George, you already, you heard the door knock of death, and that's why you're different." So, well, maybe. So that's why I try to let people know to be mindful that their time is limited. I ask on my talks. I don't know if I shared this with you last time. If I did, I'm sorry. It'll be repeated. But when I do a talk, I always ask if I'm being introduced, and then when I'm getting ready to start, I say, "Okay, guys, before I get going, I'd like you to raise your hand if you are terminal." And so there's a few people that raise their hand, and good for them. They have the courage to do that. Some people don't. But then I say, okay, you can bring them down, and then I say, well, for those of you that did not raise your hand, if this was a test, you flunked. We are all terminal. We are all terminal. One day is going to be our last day, and we don't know when that day is. So people laugh, kind of like a little shy laugh, and smile. But I do that on purpose. I'll tell you why, Phil. So then I say, okay, I have one other question for you guys. Raise your hand if you are 100% sure that tomorrow morning you're going to be opening your eyes. Nobody raises their hand because they got the message. We don't know. We just simply don't know. My dad, for example, passed on his sleep, in his sleep. Thank God. It's a good way to go. But at 84. But it is important I start that way because the mindset of people going to right away to an oncologist or the doctors and give all the power to those folks. And then, God forbid, that doctor says, you're terminal, Phil. I can't do anything else. Then you go home to a corner. Most people do that. Go to a corner and die within weeks because the doctor, said, I can't do anything else for you. You have no idea. I have three clients in my almost 8 years doing this that they were sent home to palliative care or hospice, and they surprised their doctors. They weren't ready to go, but they had a difference. Who are you to tell me that I'm you know? But the reality, if you look at it in the mindset, we're all terminal. It
Mhm.
is just the way we take it when we're used to, like, oh my God, the doctor says that he's gonna come back, or they tell you you're in remission. Come on, man, give me more positive stuff, motivation, man. You're cancer free. And so it's out of the topic of this human cycle, but I hope it was, I hope it helps a lot of you and the audience understand or share this. And if you have any questions, they can actually reach me out, and we can do a clarity call for 15 minutes, 30 minutes. Um, but my advocacy in the past 2 years is more in the prevention, with all these numbers, man, that what's happening, as you know, and this probably happens in Canada too. I mean, pharmaceutical, it's probably the biggest business in the world. I have to say, and I'm not afraid to get in trouble with this, but I have to say that these folks are not going to find the cure for some of these diseases, especially cancer. Cancer is just a gold mine. And so, oh, the cure for cancer, I'm going to donate here for what are you talking about? You're giving it more power by donating to that. If you know how much is being invested since 1973 in pharmaceuticals and quote unquote beat cancer or find the cure for cancer, it's not famous. It's crazy. It's trillions of dollars. And you know how much investment has been in the holistic side and in all the alternative Eastern stuff? Maybe $1 billion in 50 years. So yeah, it is just it is something that has to come from the inside out, that we talked the other day. And once you learn these things and put them into action, the thing is, like the book of love says in the New Testament, and one of the apostles, James, he said, show me your faith with your actions, because faith without action is dead. So if you realize that, if you humble yourself and say, man, I got sick, it's my fault. It's not because my mother or my grandmother, it's me. It's my lifestyle. Be honest to yourself. and realize that, the moment that you realize that, you have the capacity, even if you go to an oncologist, but you got a responsibility to manage your health, your situation back to health. And see, if you were the reason you make yourself sick, you can make yourself again healthy. That's it. You
I
know?
love it.
Yeah.
George, we are coming to the end, which I
Yeah.
hate because this is a great episode, and I'm glad we had you back on because with your
Yes.
knowledge has been a godsend. I want to thank you so much for being here and
Thank you.
sharing that we need to take care of our cycle, be it the sleeping cycle, the eating cycle, taking care of ourselves and believing that we are the cure for ourselves, and keep putting out that positivity to my audience. Check out the show notes to connect with George so that you can get that free 15 to 20-minute consult so that you can see how you can change your life in a more holistic approach. And George's, I thank you so much for being an amazing guest. And to everybody else, remember to always invest in yourself.